V8VETS, we're at the mountain. Yeehaw. Final round, been a big season. Plenty of big races, challenging races, different weather and everything this season, so it's been pretty cool. Camaro. Sorry to the Ford fans. Look at the air that thing got. Just need to make sure I'm going to pick up the right lap here. Look, we are going to go round and round. I think I am picking up the right lap, so that's good. We're going to go round and round here. It's going to be fun.
You're in the channel there, Davo, mate.
Sorry, I'll hit mute on that. My bad. Is it muted? There we go. Get in the channel, Dave. Yeah, sorry. But anyway, we're looking forward to this. In the Camaro, thanks to Hobbo, he threw me the keys to his chassis with this amazing retro livery on it. So yeah, massive thanks to him for letting me to run it. He had this for the Logi Pro 1000. Which went really well for me personally. But yeah, look, thanks to him, got 951 on board. Yeah, jump back in a Camaro. Haven't driven one for this season, and probably a bit longer than this season. But yeah, still got Hobson. Look at that. So there's a little homage. It's got Hobson and Baldwin on the front guard. So there you go. But yeah, so anyway, we'll do what we do. I've only done 2 flyers, a 206.4 I think I've done. Set feels really good. I feel pretty comfy around Bathurst. First fly was a couple of mistakes, so I'm actually going to go back. This will be quite a video. I'm going to go back and have a look at that first lap with you to show the little issues and what you can do to try and drive around it when you have a problem at the mountain. Because if you try and muscle it when you're having a problem, then you're usually in the fence. From a setup point of view, guys, it's identical. 64.3 on the bias, 6 on the throttle map. Nothing changed. Set feels quite nice. There's one spot where it's a bit understeery, and I'll show you that. But all in all, dock feels pretty good. As per the feedback, we're going to go cockpit view. So this is what I see. Yeah, let's get into it. All right, so 206.486. Couple of mistakes on the lap. I'm sure you can pick it. Almost had a Chaz Mostert moment down the hill, so that wasn't ideal. But look, there's the numbers. No, that's not the numbers. That's the numbers. So there you go. So a 486 on a 392. Yeah, lost a little bit coming down the hill, lost a little bit going up the hill. But overall, it was pretty tidy lap. Pretty happy with that overall. So, yeah, let's talk through it. I'll have to adjust the camera here because I'm in a different car and I haven't done that yet. Sorry about that. Bit disorganized, but we will get there as always. Cool. All right. Let's just get that back to 0. There we go. Gorgeous. And we'll save that as we're there, hey? Okay. All right. So, the mountain. Hopefully that volume's okay for everyone. Look, into one. Be careful, really cautious into one. It can suck you into braking quite deep here, which you can do, but you've got to be pretty bloody amazing on the brakes. It's really about getting the car rotated nice into the corner, but not too aggressively in early. You really want to set the car up to be on the throttle hard as early as you can coming out. If you're in a bit early, if you turn in the car a little bit early, it just kind of restricts you a little bit on exit. So don't rush the corner is probably the biggest bit of advice I can give you here. You know, be a little bit, try and roll the car a little bit more into the corner so that you can focus on the exit. If you're hustling the corner under brakes, if you're getting in really aggressive on the brakes, it can be a bit awkward to get off the corner clean, and you tend to have a bit of a slide on exit. So yeah, it's obviously a big pressure, and then you're bleeding out. Around that 50 board, you start bleeding out, and then sort of around the yellow wall is where you want to start pitching the car in. So you can see, and it's a nice trail. But then you kind of get to a point where you can come out of the brake and into the throttle very early if you get this right. And there is that transition change of camber as well. So you can see that. So if we just play it back through, because otherwise we lose the thingy-majiggy. So as you approach here, you can just see corner cambers up in the middle. For anyone that's ever been to Bathurst, standing on this here and watching the cars, I've got some amazing photos of the cars in here about how loaded they really are, even though they look quite unstable. There's a lot of camber on this corner. So, you know, but it does peter out pretty quick, but right in the middle, it's a real speed bowl. And honestly, up here is a great spot to watch the cars behave. And last time I was at Bathurst was the last couple of years of Gen 2. But yeah, anyway, really impressive stuff. So, but you can see here the car gets light and then bang, it's in the bowl. So it's in. That's where you want to get the car. If you're a bit high here, it ain't going to work. If you're a bit narrow, it grips up really early and it stuffs you. You get up on the curb a lot, but it just throws the exit. So nice on the throttle as early as you can. Grab a little bit of curb there. Grab more if you can. Like, just get that line right. And it's just a nice, consistent, progressive throttle. So you can see as I try to get the steering wheel straight as quickly as I possibly can. And it's hard on the throttle early. Okay. Really clean exit. And that's because I was just a little patient here. You can just see I came out of the throttle for a smidge. That was because I just felt the car wasn't ready in the rear. When you do enough laps of Bathurst, you kind of get a feel for where the car balance is through the steering wheel, obviously not through general feel. But and then it's just hard in the throttle. So nice and hard in the throttle, up the straight. Again, just hit your shift points. You can hear I'm just catching the limiter there, so I'm a bit late on the shift. There again. I do find that the sound difference between the Mustang and the Camaro actually has an impact on that. I feel like I don't know why, but it feels like the limiter on the Camaro is like 500 RPM lower from a sound point of view. But anyway, so hard on it, up into fifth gear, obviously, down the hill, and you're looking to brake around about the end of the white wall into the black, bang. So from an onboard point of view, yeah, so it's about there-ish. Again, it's another corner that you don't want to rush the corner. Now, you can brake deeper here and use second gear if you want, but in my opinion, it is slower. But if you're struggling with rotation, second gear is an option. I know Mozzie, Chaz Mostert again, but a few of them actually use second gear in qualifying. on a new tyre. Excuse me. But yeah, look, for me, it's third gear. That's the way I like it. So again, hard on the brakes, but you kind of clear it earlier than turn one. Okay, so turn one, you carry it a lot longer. Here, it's uphill braking. You want to use, I'll just minimize this for a second. You want to use all of your exit, right? All the line you can, like millimeter perfect. Obviously, you don't want to catch the grass because that's going to end up being a bit of a problem, but you really want to maximize this as best you can. You don't want to be too narrow because it really makes it hard on exit here. Nice trail all the way in, okay? And you can clear the brake pretty early here if you get that braking zone right. If you're too aggressive and braking too late again, you'll be braking far further into the corner. And the problem with that is you're braking uphill. So you're taking momentum away from the car constantly. And for every meter that you're on the brake going up the hill, you're taking away a lot more momentum. So the sooner you can clear it and get back on the throttle, the better it's going to be. So nice progressive brake. Get the car turned in fairly early. You don't want to turn the car in too late here. Get the car in early. There is definitely a pocket of grip. You can see I'm just a touch wide, so I turned in a bit late. You really want the car on the white line here, but certainly where it kinks here is where you want to try and hold it as narrow as you can on the exit. Reason being, you can square the car up and get on the throttle. If you carry too much momentum and run the car out too wide here, the car won't accept throttle. So it'll just want to slide off the exit. So you've really got to kind of square it. So you can see there, I'm trying to get the car back towards the inside. And then it's just hard on the throttle all the way up. Now, I have a little lift here. You can see, perfect example of a mistake from me. Might not seem much, right? But there, the car is pointed where I want it to go. So I'm shooting for mid here, maybe a little bit higher. Probably a little bit higher is where I'm shooting. But I kind of you can see, I steer out and just have a little bit of a slide. And then that puts me shooting towards the wall again. Now watch here, I've got to get back off the throttle. If I stay hard in the throttle, it's just gonna light the rears up over that bump, over the curb and into this low grip area. So just a little bit of preservation costs me bugger all. Okay, so it was like 500ths up the hill, bugger all. But it's self-preservation. So you could stay in it and try and hold full throttle. You might not hit the fence and you might not spin and hit the inside fence, but you're going to use a shit ton of tyre by having a big slide out of here. So that's just food for thought again. So you can just see, just waited and then bang, as soon as I was over that curb and the car was settled back on the throttle. Third gear up the hill, get the car over to the right as best as you possibly can. And you're looking to just roll the car in. So you're on the limiter. Again, you can get a fourth if you want, but this is a corner where third's fine, on the limiter for a fair bit. As the race goes on, the exit speed out of 2 is going to be lower, so you're not going to be on the limiter as much. So for me, it's about repeatability. You could use fourth if you wanted to try and qualify, and you're going to carry more speed in here, which makes it a little bit more awkward. Only a little bit more speed, but every little bit of speed here is important. And then then when you get back into the race, as the race goes on, you're going to be using third. You're not going to get to fourth. So for me, it's just repeatability of how you attack the track. And then here it's just a real roll. So you're kind of out of the throttle for a bit, and then you roll the car to the apex and then start to grab the brake. That's how I attack it. Again, qualifying, you'd be far more aggressive attacking the corner. This is a race run, as I always say. Qualifying, I'd carry the limiter hard all the way into the apex, a little bit further at least, probably halfway between these two, and brake a little bit differently. But this is nice and smooth. Sort of just float the car out. Again, now you're not fighting the wheel. Everything is about just smooth steering inputs, not being overly aggressive, not trying to force the car to turn, not trying to save a big slide. Just let the car kind of dance around. Nice and smooth. So you can see it's about 40-odd%. It's not a big amount of pedal pressure because again, it's uphill, but it's about keeping the car balanced. Okay. Down to second gear, float the car out towards the white line, just inside of it. But again, a bit like turn 1, probably more like turn 2. You want to pitch the car in early here, because this is where all the camber is in this section. It's not here. It's understeer central out there. You want to get the car in nice and early so you can hug the car on the wall. So again, so you can see trail braking and then a bit of a roll again. So rolling in through the kink and then a little bit of a roll as the car turns in and gets settled. And then you can pick up that throttle, a little bit of brake again, but it's not a lot. And then you can pick up that throttle. So the car's in nice and tight to the curb. Yeah, you get a little bit tighter on that, but not much. But the importance of being tight here and as long as you can is that if you come out here earlier, so if you move the car over and understand that if you move the car over even half a car width, right? So bang to here. Already you've got more steering lock on to get the car around the corner on the exit, okay? Here you can see as I'm getting in the throttle, the car's kind of already self-loading itself. It's already getting around the corner nicely, squaring up on the steering wheel and able to get back to full throttle earlier, okay? And I'm not using all the exit. So that's just something for you to consider is really think about the later apex you can have into 3 there, into the cutting, the better the run off, the squarer the car will be, the more it'll accept throttle. If you're still trying to turn the car a lot on the exit, it's going to slide all the way up the hill and it's going to take you forever to get back to full throttle. So just have a bit of a play with that. And then here's just a little baby lift over the bump as always. Probably lifted a bit too much to be honest with you, and it took me a long time actually to get back to full throttle. Bit of a sook. I think I caught the limiter here. Yeah, I did. So a little bit lazy on me there. I'm not sure what took me so long to get back to full throttle, but anyway, up into third, get the car right out to the Fujitsu wall. You want to be almost scraping the mirror there and pitch the car in quite early. Now, you shouldn't need brake here. You should not use any brake in this section. It's all about balancing the throttle. So getting off the throttle, letting the car do the talking. You don't come all the way out of the throttle. You want to carry momentum. Come all the way out of the throttle if you're having an incident or a moment or something like that. But you're number one on its way. Should have got a coffee. So rotate the car in nicely. So again, what have I come? I wish there was percentages here, but I don't know, just under 50% throttle. And again, I talk about being smooth and consistent. It becomes muscle memory. So, bang, out to a certain point on the throttle and turn the car in at a certain point with a certain amount of steering lock. You get a feel for what it's going to do, and the throttle input remains nice and constant here. The steering input, you'll see, I'll grab a little bit more lock, but it's pretty consistent through the whole corner. So a little bit more there, but it's consistent. Now, it's a touch wide because I turned in a touch wide. So again, costs you a little bit of time up the hill here. You want to be mirror to the wall basically here as best you can, jumping off over the grate here. So I was a touch wide. I just turned the car in a bit wide, but that is back here as to whatever was going on the lap. I can't remember. It was 22 minutes ago. But for whatever reason, it took me so long to get back to full throttle there. I would say that confidence then was lacking into the next corner. So I'm not sure what I did there. But yeah, a little bit tighter on it. Again, the reason you want to be a little bit tighter is because, as you can see here, I get quite wide early. Not too bad, but at that point, I want the car flicking back towards the next corner. So it's not awful, but it's all about getting on the throttle. So, but that's okay. Flick the car back. Harden the throttle. I always have a little lift. There's a little bump here. I just have a little lift. I don't know why. It's just a bit of force of habit. And then back into the throttle. So literally every lap I do it, you can go flat over it with the right setup, but a little bit of tire preservation maybe, I don't know, but yeah. Down to here again, so I might have a little bit of a driver's brake, so there's nothing on I doubt there'll be anything on the telemetry or there'll be no brake lights, but I might grab it. So here you can see coming out of the throttle, it's another section where I don't think you should be braking, in my opinion. Some people do brake here, but they're more aggressive into it. I find the exit is a little bit better when you flow the car in, but that's just driver preference. This is how I attack this section. So down the hill, getting the car out, letting it float out. So you can just see nice and balanced as you come over the crest. And then I come all the way out of the throttle on the way down the hill. And then no brake. So no data brake, no nothing. The setup, haven't actually looked at the setup. What are we in the front? 46 in the front. That's interesting. 45, 10 on the bump. Yeah, it's interesting. So it's bottoming out in that front right there. Didn't expect that right height, to be honest with you, but yeah, a little bit of a bottom out there. So just consider that, because anytime the car is bottoming out, there will be a little bit of understeer, obviously. So just think about that. But yeah, very minor there. But again, so back on the throttle early though, getting the car to rotate again, attack the curb a little bit, and then just progressively harder and harder in the throttle and float the car out to the wall. I didn't maximize it. But you can see the steering input was very calm through that entire thing. So if we just play that back on slow-mo. So again, so up over the crest, we're just going to balance the throttle so it doesn't have a slide. And then as we come to the shadow, bang, out of the throttle, roll the car in. Once it starts to grip and rotate, pick up the throttle again to get it steering on the rear, because you're starting to come uphill now, so the weight comes off the nose. But you can see the steering input is very calm. There's no sliding. There's no oversteer. It's very smooth. A little bit there, but that was just probably because I had a little bit of exit that I could use. So over here. Oh, crap. Not very good at the buttons. I'll just use a mouse. So this is the only spot I feel like the setup is lacking just a little bit, that's not a shot at the setup, FYI, because you've got to balance across the rest of the track. The way I attack this corner, I really like a lot of front end feel. I feel like this is probably the only spot where the set doesn't suit my style, but I've literally done 2 laps. So that's just about doing more laps. Up over the hill. So here, a little bit of a touch on the brake, but that's more about just getting weight on the nose before it comes up over the hill, and then off the throttle. So here, off the throttle, a little bit of a brake again, and that's just, I carry the brake over the hill, over the bump, over the hill, whatever. As it crests, I just keep the pedal pressure on just to keep the weight on the nose, and then I'm straight off the brake again. That's purely so it just doesn't get a floaty feel. That's just something I do. Again, I don't know if I'll have to have a look at the data of some of the other boys in the team, but I don't know if others do that. But yeah, that's kind of how I attack it. And then it's back on the throttle pretty early, a bit balanced on it. And you really need to attack. So this is where so for me, I want the car in tighter and pointing more. You can see I've got a fair bit of lock in it. So I just feel like it doesn't quite turn in here. Looking at the setup, there might be a couple of things there that could explain that. It's very stiff in the bump, so it's possibly not really accepting, and it's quite soft in the rebound as well. So it might just be a case of it's just not accepting that corner load here, and it's kind of letting the car float back up. But yeah, you want to be a little bit tighter on the wall. You really want to feel like you're almost going to hit it. And then nice on the throttle out to the exit. And now this is where, again, the set for me over this curve, and it's pretty critical because it's a make or break section of the racetrack. But I feel like you'll see here, I get back to full throttle, but then I'm out again. It just feels like the car's a bit loose on this curve. So just consider that. And that could be a result of that understeer I'm feeling. So when I say the setup, what I mean by that is my driving style to the setup. Setup's absolutely perfect. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but we all prefer something unique. So if you're struggling with the same thing I am there around a bit of understeer and then a little bit of oversteer over this curb, then just be really patient with the throttle. Don't get too aggressive on it. And I'll go back a lap and show you the previous flyer or the first flyer I did, where I made quite a big mistake through that section because I attacked it like I normally would, and it didn't quite work out for me. And that was, yeah. But anyway, so down here, you want to get the car back over to the left. But again, depending where you come out of that last corner, you don't want to try and get too far. So out to the white line, ideally, if you can. And you pitch the car in pretty early here. You roll out of the throttle and grab a bit of brake early, but it's not a lot. There's 1, 2, 3 stages of braking in this section. So the first section is here. Obviously, getting the car on the brakes and settled in the front. Second section is between, call it apex of the red wall here, and the apex of the middle of the chicane. Okay, so there's a nice important braking section there. And then from the center of the apex point of the center of the chicane through to tree, I think it's called, whatever. But there's another important braking section there. So reason I say that is because you can't carry. So we come in here, decent amount of brake, 40 odd 5% maybe. But you can see I clear the brake. So I hit the pedal, and then I'm chasing downshift. So I'm using the engine to do a fair bit of braking here. So you pitch the car in pretty early. You're then wanting to get the car in towards the wall here as best you can. And you can see the car gets light and wants to go to the left. So you're really kind of, from an onboard, you are pointing at, like, we're turning towards here. Yeah, that's kind of the trajectory that this here, if I'm lining this up, then this side of the car is hitting the wall at this point. But it just floats away there, right? So it just starts to move away for you. You can see over that light point, very calm on the brake. I'm still calm on the brake here, because any more than that, you're going to start, because the car's light in the rear at that point, you'll lock the rears, and then that'll transition to the front once it starts to settle. So be very careful with the brake over that hill. As it gets into this section here, right, so the car's now loaded. I'm happy with that. I know where I've got to go. Is the second bit of braking that I want to do here. And also between here and here is another downshift. Okay, so fourth to third before in the first braking area, third to second in the second braking area. So see there, bang, harder on the brake because the car's settled. Into second, I'm now using the engine to do some braking over the bump. I clear the pedal again, get the car right up over that curb, like use a lot of it. And then, so you can see it bottoms out again on that front right. And then again, I'm back on the brake here again. So a little bit higher this time, okay? Because you really want to stop the car as best you can in this straight line so that you can get in nice and tight at tree. And this is where I used to watch Bathurst from every single year. Best freaking spot in the world. You can see Conrod. You can't see it on mic. Oh, if I go back a bit, you'll see it. No, you won't. Bugger. You can see Conrod. You can see bloody pit straight. You see everything from here. Freaking absolutely brilliant spot. So yeah, nice on the brake here, and then pitch the car in pretty aggressively to the wall. So you want to get it inside of that white line as best you can. And you're looking to keep it as narrow as you can. You can see I'm back on the throttle. And then you're looking to flick it basically at the end of the ripple strip, okay? So you want to flick the car back hard. And again, you're looking, we go on board, we are into that wall every day of the week, but we're not. We are clearing it because the car gets so light, it's steering out the other way, okay? And that's wide, in my opinion. I've missed the opportunity there. There's probably half a meter of safe, and then you'd want to be another maybe 200 or 300 mil, which is a bit closer, a bit riskier. But you want to be as square as you can in here, because you'll see there I'm still turning the car left, 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 left. Look at the load it put on the tyre. I've got so much steering lock in it. I've got a lot of throttle in, but I've had to clear the throttle because I'm just a bit wide. So you want to come out just a little bit narrower because that just opens this up. But anyway, hard back on the throttle, get up over the curb there. Again, because I was wide, and I'm talking a smidge wide through the dipper and then the right-hander, it just took me a bit longer to get back on the throttle, and it just upset my rhythm a bit into here. And this is where I have almost the Chaz moment. So you can see I've got back to full throttle, but it took far too long, right out to the wall. And I flicked the car in quite aggressively. I don't really understand what I've done here. But I flicked it in aggressively and actually put a bit of oversteer in the car. which I'm glad I did get a bit of oversteer because I would have been in the fence harder than what I did. But I then just clipped the wall there. Didn't look like it, but from an onboard it did. I just had to lift out of the throttle. So yeah, it's not the ideal line. You want a little bit more. You want to be tight here, but you don't want to be that tight. Into here, normally I'd use shadows here, but there's no shadows. So it's sort of breaking halfway between here, halfway between the Marshal's Tower and the white wall. But it's not a big break. It's a bit like coming down Skyline and coming down through the S's. Is you're not chasing necessarily a big brake pedal pressure here because you need to get around this right-hander. So it's nice and square on the car. A little bit of brake. I pop. So you can just see as the car's rotating around the corner, just clear that pedal and just use a bit of trail. Once the car's around the corner and settle, so you can see, bang, I'm into second there. So I'm using the engine to do a bit of braking. And then it's not a lot. I don't brake much in the middle, but then as the car loads up down the hill, I grab a bit more. Okay. And then again, a bit like turn 2 and the cutting, you want to pitch the car in pretty early. Now, some people run out here and turn the car in and get a really good exit. That works as well. But you'd be surprised, even if you run quite narrow here, provided you get nice and tight on the wall, you can square the car up for the exit. It doesn't hurt that much. But I tend to run around mid-track. It's kind of my happy place. And then, again, trailing out of the brakes, very easy to lock a front inside left here. Very easy to do. But, yeah, nice trail. I'm a touch wide. Again, not happy with it. You should almost be smacking your mirror on the wall here. But again, not too bad. It wasn't awful, just a bit wide. Problem with it being wide is this. You get that slide on the exit. So, yeah, just probably turn the car in a bit early, carried a smidge too much speed, and then you have this slide on exit. But again, important to, when you have that slide, don't come all the way to the throttle, just balance it and just keep trying to feed the throttle. You can see it's just bang, there it is, full throttle. So down the straight, there's no real special secret here, obviously. It's just keeping the steering wheel as straight as you can, hitting your shift points. I was wobbling all over the place, but anyway, bang, shift points, no limiters. You can run in the center, you can run in the left. A lot of the quick guys are running in the center in pro. It's a bit like is it the Le Mans track where you run in the middle or you run to the left or the right. Can make a difference in straight line speed. So just think about that. But look, down, you want to get the car across, and you don't want to get the car across aggressively. So you don't want to get to like here and then shoot the car across, right? So it's just a nice progression. You can pick up a bit of grass here without an off track. But you don't want to be getting the car, you don't want to be on the white line here, for example, and then turning left to turn right. Okay, so you just want this to be one nice big radius all the way through. So you just see it's nice and smooth, bit of grass, and then rotating the car in and be quite aggressive in the setups. Actually, it's very nice over this. So you want to be quite aggressive and really launch the car hard over there. A little bit of a lift on the throttle. I didn't really show it, did it? But yeah, a little bit of a lift on the throttle. But yeah, nice and aggressive over there. Clear the grass, basically. And as soon as the car's settled, which isn't particularly settled there, around about the 200 board, you brake a bit deeper. I broke a bit early here. Depends how quick you are on the downshifts as well. High risk of popping a motor at this track, obviously. So, think about that. But nice on the brakes. You're on 3. You're on 3 coming up. It's been a big day. But yeah, big on the pedal pressure, obviously, and you carry the big pedal pressure for a long time here. Nice down through the gears. You're going to see I'm getting a little bit, as the downshifts go, I get a bit more on the blip. Reason being, engine RPM's dying, things like that. So I don't want to lock a rear here. So yeah, a little bit more aggressive on the blip. But you see a lot of pedal pressure for a long time. The setup is handling that very well. But again, I broke a little bit early. into here, but it was really just about focusing on a good clean run through here. The reason I say I broke early is, when I pitched the car in, it was kind of, I was able to get back to the throttle quite early. So, yeah, but anyway, here it's about making sure that you square the car up nicely here. You don't want to run too deep and be coming out here because it just takes you then forever to get back on the throttle. So you can see just nice and consistent, full throttle there, up into third gear any moment. And then it's just balancing that throttle out over the curb. And again, don't fight the car. I don't know why I paused it here. Anyone see the lap 4 of Logitech Pro? But you can get a little bit of grass here. It doesn't upset the car too much. Just on the Logi Pro thing. So where it kind of went wrong, and I know I ended up with a drive-through for it, is what it is. But it wasn't on the 990 car either. Kobe was in that car, but it's a good example of understanding your racing room. I was on the inside here. It was pretty decent pass from one of the VM cars into the chase. Just gave me a bit of a door on the exit, but that just kind of unsettled us. And as we came through, the 990 with Kobe Jones, he got up the outside of me, and it was my own fault. It was a bit of netcode that ultimately really induced the spin here, but talk about racing room and giving people room and whatnot. And I take responsibility for it, and I fucked Blake's birthday and screwed his race. But I'm back here, and then there's a car in behind me again. Okay, if I forgot TV1 here, no, it won't work either. What kind of happened? Oh, let me go here. Let's get all fucking fancy. God, 2 swear words. It's terrible. Ugh. It's not going to work either, is it? What if we go far chase and then I'll go right back here? Sorry, I know this isn't a part of VETS, but it's a part of racecraft, and I failed at it. As far as I'm concerned, I'll take ownership of that. So imagine the VE car, the Vermilion car's here. Okay, I'm here on the inside, and right on my back bumper back here is the Kobe Jones car. Okay, as the driver, I'm in cockpit view. I'm using this car as a bit of a reference for, that's the racing line, yeah? That's where 99% of the time people are up on the curb here. So when I want to make sure that I'm giving someone space, I kind of use that car as a reference point. So from my onboard, I'm looking up here going, oh yeah, I can be roughly about here. Problem with that was, and I was a bit further over, problem with that was that Kobe didn't actually run up on the curb. He ran, this side here was to the white line. So I thought there was enough space, and there wasn't. What's the lesson out of it? I know I'm dribbling, but the lesson is you want to give people a little bit more room than you think sometimes. Certain parts of the racetrack, you can certainly, I guess, use that opportunity up a little bit more and sit a bit tighter. This is probably not a spot to do that. I should have used my head, stayed a little bit further to the right here, and ultimately myself and the 61 car that DNF'd because of this incident. That was a huge incident. It wasn't ideal. But anyway, I'll move on. But yeah, just think about that. Down into the last corner, braking marker will be right about there. So from an onboard, I'm braking roughly around, I'm pretty sure there's and I'm not counting them. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not counting these little witches' hats. But 3 from the end. So sort of just before that is at the ripple strip, the painted lines. Before they rescan the track, there was a beautiful little mark on the track around here somewhere. There was like a little blemish in the racetrack. That was always my brake marker. But I'd love to say the 100 board, but it's just a bit too far away from my hopes and dreams and ambitions. And again, it's a big stop here, but you want to focus on getting the car rotated in nicely. I slowed the car down a little bit too much here, so this is another mistake. I was probably a little bit early on the brake. Why does that matter? Because then when I turn the car in, when I would normally turn the car in, it rotated in far better. And I call it a little bit too much curb. Again, it's not the end of the world, but it just means that when you get back on the throttle, it just doesn't settle, and then you have a slide. So that bit kind of sucked. But anyway, doesn't matter. Look, 204, 486, 206. I wish it was a 204. A 206, 486. Really happy with that lap. So let's just quickly go back and look at what I was talking about before about the first flyer I did. So again, really nice exit here, clean, beautiful, happy days. You can see the throttle was actually probably a little bit better than what I had on the faster lap. Down through here, we're talking about here is there. So you can see I've got the car onto the grass. Isn't a big issue until you go to turn the car in. It just has that little wiggle. But I actually got the car in quite nicely here. So it helped it, but it's not a game you want to play a lot. It's a bit of a risk, but you can see back on the throttle quite nicely. And you can see I'm in tighter the whole way here. So I had a little bit of a slide still, but it was a little bit cleaner up the hill. But anyway, we'll keep going. Here, quite good. Bang, inside that white line, but again, had a slide on the exit. So not real freaking flash. A little bit better there, but not great. All right, so then we get into all this stuff. All right, so over here. So I pick up the throttle very quickly here. And this is where I was talking about the car having a bit of understeer. So you can see straight away the front of the car, if you watch that front, right, so the car's in nice, it's floated over, and then watch the front go away, right there. It just loses grip as it plants. And then I've had to come out of the throttle and then back in the throttle, but it's just not getting in far enough. Now, you can see at this point, I'm probably higher on throttle percentage than I was the faster lap because I learned very quickly that I couldn't do what I would normally want to do. Why is it important? Because on exit here, the car, I didn't reset the throttle. I didn't try and come out of it to get the car to rotate. So it just continued. You can see I'm trying to turn the car back the whole time. I don't want to lift, and then I've got no choice but to lift because I'm having a fairly large moment over the top of the hill. This is what I talk about now is what do you do at this point? You can't, you're not going to go any quicker. You're not going to try and go fast. If this is in a race, you're just trying to save the car. How are you going to save the car? It's by resetting. Now, I stay in the throttle fairly well here, but look at the tank slapper. So now I'm turning the thing the other way. What I'm not able to do at this point is to worry about getting the car back over here. So all I'm thinking about is how do I get down the hill as quick as I possibly can? I'm going to do that by getting the car back to mid-track. That's and I talk about where you come out. So when I talked about that fast lap, was get the car back to wherever you can. Okay, so I've just had a wobble. I've had a moment. Okay, cool. I'm going to throw this lap away, so to speak, from a faster lap. But how do I now save the car and get the thing down the hill without putting it in the fence? That's all I give a crap about. So I can't get the car over here. I'm a car and a half, 2 cars inside of where I should be. So I brake earlier again. I'm out of the throttle earlier because I know that I'm quite narrow. Now, it's not massive early, but it is a little bit. Okay, and then I'm able to get the car in as nice as I can, and then it's just back into rinse and repeat. Okay, the car's not happy. It's dancing around and carrying on, and then I run wide all the way down the hill. But it's better than the alternative. Now, if you look at the previous lap, you can see the difference in brake pressure between the second important brake and the third important brake. So you can see on the good lap, the car was far more settled coming down the hill. I was able to get more pedal pressure to stop it in the middle. This time I couldn't. The car was very unsettled. So you can see as it came down here, it's just not. The car's unbalanced. So I've got to be really mindful about how much pedal pressure I can use. If I try and use the same amount I normally would, then I'm going to lock a brake, lock a rear, have an issue. I'll end up over the curb or I'll end up in the fence. So I use a little bit less. I focus on engine braking. I focus on getting the car turned back as best I can. And then here, it's kind of like, well, you don't have a choice. You've got it. Like, you look at it, the thing's pointing this way. It should be shooting in it, but you've got no choice but to stand on the brake as hard as it will accept it, and then just let the car run a bit wide. Right. So instead of trying to stop the car really well, having a moment, locking up, sliding all the way down the hill, you're just kind of maximizing what you've got left. You've got plenty of opportunity out here to slow the car down wider if you need to. And then once you get the car through the dipper, so what are we? We're a car inside of where we should be, but we get the car turning fairly well. And then you can get on with the rest of the lap. So it's just, little things like that. A bit of risk mitigation where possible is important to make sure that you maximize it. But look, Bathurst is always it's just freaking awesome, isn't it? And how good does that bloody livery look? But it really is just about flowing the car, not overdriving it. I'm not sure who that was in the background then. Not overdriving it, okay? If you hustle the car too much here, you might get a lap time out of it, but you're not going to get race lap time out of it. A little bit. I must be getting old. I don't even remember where we raced last week. Adelaide. It's a little bit similar to Adelaide that, you can hustle the car and you might feel like you're quick in the first 5 laps. But if you don't look after the tyre, you are P nowhere very quickly. So being aggressive on the car early in a stint, especially at a track like Bathurst, just isn't worth it, in my opinion. You want to maximise your lap pace, don't get me wrong, but you want to be very smooth about it. You want to be accurate and not go for a fastest lap of the race on lap 2 or lap 1. You just settle into a rhythm, figure out how to balance yourself around the track. And I'm sorry this is a long video. This is a massive video, but it's a big track. So that moment, tink, off the wall. So anyway, so it is, it's about survival. As we know, there's always going to be incidents. There's going to be carnage. If you haven't got spotters, turn your spotters on, please. It's massively beneficial just to flag any incidents up ahead. It's disappointing sometimes to watch some of the different broadcasts back, and not just in vets leagues, I'm talking about in general. And there's an incident and people 10 cars back are driving into it full throttle. So it's either people haven't got spotters running, they don't have them set up correctly, or whatever the reason is, who knows. But use whatever tools you've got to make that work as best you possibly can. Have some fun. Last round of the season, let's go. It's on for the championship in multiples, and obviously, Bathurst, no drop round, and easy to have a DNF here. So think about it, bit of risk mitigation, and you don't want to screw yourself over. So have some fun. See you next season, guys, and there'll be an announcement out soon in the old Macca's channel thingy soon about next season.